Welcome, everybody. You're tuned into another great episode of Table Talk, and we are here with Ashton Griffin, and we're going to talk about um, disability and sports, and he's going to give us a little bit of his experience um, as an athletic trainer. Um, so, today, my anchor will be Brandon Pate. And Ms. Griffin, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, Brandon, let's, if you don't mind, could you start off with our first question that we want to ask Mr. Griffin today?
Yes. Mr. Griffin, can you talk about how you got started being an athletic trainer?
It was my involvement with first Southern Wayne High School, and then when I went to Spring Creek High School, it was something that they asked me to become involved in, and it sounded like something that I wanted to do, and I enjoyed, working with football and in some cases men's and women's soccer primarily.
Can you talk about how difficult how it changed with being an athletic trainer with a cerebral palsy and knowing that other athletic trainers might have different challenges that you face?
Well, one of the things we did was I worked closely with the EMS folks that were on hand at the football game, and also during practice I had assistance from the coaches, and so they were able to assist me. If we needed to get somewhere quickly, or somebody needed to be uh, transported off the field, that sort of thing. And then, I would do a lot of follow up on the sidelines and that kind of thing. So, I was there trying to do a first response evaluation of the person, if they were injured, that sort of thing. And like I said, then I would, turn it over to the professionals that were there to, we would either have the player transported, maybe to a hospital, and then usually I also would go to the hospital as well to meet with the player and to also coordinate with the families.
How did you get involved in athletic training?
Really, it was something I thought about, but the opportunity presented itself at Southern Wayne as a way to be involved, and it was something that I was interested in, and it was just a lot of fun for me to be involved with the athletic side of it. Uh, they also provided me with. Eventually, I got a golf cart to help me get around, and I also usually had a student trainer that helped me. And then there were we had coaches meetings and so forth, and there would be training for folks that were involved in athletic training and how to deal with folks. And I was sort of before they started having licensed athletic trainers, so I kind of got grandfathered in, so to speak. And now most of the schools, have somebody that's got an education from, say, like at East Carolina or UNC or somewhere like that, that works on the sidelines in some cases. That's what the larger schools do, and that's the best.
What was your experience like? Because I know as a photographer, a sports photographer, and a sports reporter with a podcast, I'm right there on the sidelines interacting with players and coaches. Was that the same for you?
Yeah, it was fun. I did enjoy my day-to-day contact with the coaches, and in some cases it was students that I was also teaching in the classroom. So it was wonderful to see both sides of these individuals. And I had, I was usually back away from the sidelines, but I can tell you that I probably got hit, I think, 3 times during the course of football seasons. And I got caught in the wrong spot at the wrong time, so to speak.
Well, that's less than I have been. I've been hit like almost 5 or 10 times.
It is a hazard to be on the sidelines sometimes. And, all of a sudden you see somebody's coming in to make a catch, and here comes the defender, and you're stuck in the middle.
Mr. Griffin, I got a question. I'm just listening to everything you're saying. While you were, in the midst of being an athletic trainer and learning the craft, was there any point in your mind that it stuck out to you that, I'm doing something that very few people get a chance to see someone do, by you having your cerebral palsy, but you're on the sideline with, these players. A lot of times you don't really see someone that may have a disability on the sideline, whether it be football or basketball or really any sport. It's like, and then you just don't get a chance to see anyone with a visible disability like that. And that's one reason why we made this segment, to kind of highlight that individuals that have disability. We desire sometimes to want to be on the sideline of the football game or on the field, like you were doing, being the athletic trainer and having, or basketball or whatever the case may be.
Well, it certainly was enjoyable. I haven't really mentioned that in addition to that, I also ran the clock for men and women's high school basketball for both Southern Wayne and for Spring Creek. So that was a lot of fun. And because of that, I got asked to also run the clock for the University of Mount Olive. And I did that for, I think, 17 years. And that was really a lot of fun because Mount Olive had some really good teams back then. They still do. And I got to see some exciting basketball from midcourt, so to speak, on the sidelines.
Can you talk about how it was like getting on with Mount Olive? Because I know for me, it was very easy to get on because I knew people in the industry.
Well, that's kind of what happened was Coach Bill Klingon, his son Scott was one of my students, and I think Scott was involved with running the clock for a while. And when he left to go off to college, he asked me if I wanted to be involved, and I talked to Coach Klingon, and we went from there. And then, of course, Coach Joy Hickenbackham picked up after that, and I really enjoyed my time there. And it's certainly one of the things I miss being here, not in Mount Olive anymore.
Can you talk about converting from high school to college and what a big difference that is
Um,
in the sports business?
well, it certainly is more pressure, so to speak. Uh, these are college athletes versus high school ones, but uh, I had some pretty good high school athletes as well. So we transit. I guess the biggest change initially was the wireless whistle, so to speak, where the ref had control of the whistle, but if he forgot to stop the clock, I was the backup, and so that was an interesting transition for a few years. And I think now they kind of moved away from that. But and also, the times are different in terms of high school full quarters versus two halves, uh, things like that. And college coaches, especially opposing coaches, will tell you they're not upset if you do something wrong. But basically, it was just a lot of fun. We saw a lot of good ball games from a very good seat, and had lots of wonderful people to work with, both at the high school and the college level.
Because I know for working with high school, I can like interview any player I want, with my podcast. But then whenever I go to like Mount Olive, I have to like pick and choose. Like, for example, when I go to the basketball games, there's not that opportunity like I could at Eastern Wayne. But there is like on the softball side, because I know players on the softball and baseball side that will be willing to do interviews. And that's what I've experienced so far in the difference.
Yeah, the sports media part of it, is different. They a lot of times will designate one or two players to be interviewed in addition to the coach and so forth. So, uh, that certainly is a difference. And but I tell you, the competitive spirit is always there, all the time, at both levels.
When being an athletic trainer, do you have to deal with a lot of compliance officers like I do?
Um, not really. In my case, there were meetings I had to attend periodically. Uh, I had to sometimes with insurance, with parents and so forth. Uh, but I wasn't doing it at the college level. So in terms of athletic training, so that really wasn't a factor.
Because I remember my first time when somebody I interviewed was like, "Oh, you need to talk to blah blah blah, the compliance officer." I was over here like, "What?" Like nobody ever told me. Like I had to go to a second party.
Well, it sometimes that has to do with legalities, but sometimes it's just a matter of being known. Like I said,
Yeah. And then now I get like, "Oh, compliance officers, I'm fine with them."
yeah. But they're looking out for the university or the college, so you just deal with it and learn from it.
How can sports change for the people with disabilities?
How can sports how can sports change?
Yes, like for example, like Paralympic sports. Do you see us having more Paralympic sports than traditional sports?
Well, I think it's certainly an opportunity. That's an area that I've never really been involved in. Um, you know, I, I've seen it on TV in some cases, but that was not really something I was involved with. I did as I was growing up. I did a few sports camps, and we would try football for a week. We'd try baseball. We'd try basketball, and I can remember uh, Coach Cheryl Wisenhunt working with me and the other guys uh, because it was guys that were my age that I went to school with. That's about as close to Paralympics as I came. There really wasn't any involvement for me.
Do you see in the future that sports, like for example football, will allow wheelchair users to play football or basketball?
Um, I don't really. Well, the only way I guess I could see wheelchair football happening would be some version of flag football, maybe. Um, I don't see contact sport. Uh, I've watched a few uh, wheelchair basketball games in the past, and those guys play hard.
Can you talk about how it is as being in a wheelchair, knowing like for example there was one like high school player, he was in a wheelchair and they honored him by letting him run the last touchdown in to win the game. How is that impacting you?
Well, uh, that's pretty cool. That creates a lasting memory for the player and for the other players that are involved with it as well. And just that's a highlight of his life that he won't forget, or she, in that case. And you know, those those types of things are always special. And I know when I did when I was in high school, I was more of a statistician, and but I do remember, getting recognized my senior year, and I can remember the famous uh, NC State coach Lou Holtz coming to our athletic banquet and giving an inspirational talk, so forth.
What else can you see in the disability community helping with sports?
Well, I think the Paralympics is a big thing for those that are maybe more elite athletes. Uh, but if there was a disability league that for basketball, I think that would be interesting. I think swimming is an opportunity. Uh, and I worked for a few years as a high school swimming official, and that was interesting. I had a good friend who was also a teacher, and his family was involved in swimming, and he was nice enough to get me involved at both the high school level and some with the YMCA. So, swimming is always an opportunity.
What else do you see? Like, do you see more job opportunities in the sports industry for disability community members?
We can always hope. Uh, there are opportunities for people who have the desire to make it happen. Uh, it's really like anybody. It's really up to the individual to show what they can do, to show what they bring to the situation, and if they're capable, they can certainly get hired.
Do you see that if any body, like for example, if a disability person is more qualified than like a person like maybe me, who's like a normal person, an able-bodied person, do you see the disability person getting a better opportunity than I would?
That's a tough nut to crack. I think we've come a long way. There's still a lot of people who doubt what a handicapped person can do. And so that's where it's up to that individual to show what they're capable of, and show, what they can do. Because I feel like sometimes the normal bodied person might get more opportunities than I might. But, we got to show what we can do.
What advice would you give a person looking to get into the sports industry that have a disability?
Well, when I tell them, go with something that, that interests you. If you want to be in athletic training, if you want to work on the sidelines, if you want to coach, if you want to be an athlete, you got to take the opportunity, grab it, and go with it.
Is there anything else, Tyrone, that you would like to know about sports in the disability world?
Not anything I probably would like to know, but I didn't want to interrupt Mr. Griffin, but he made several great just points about the questions that you gave him. And there were like two in particular that I just wanted to comment on. I think we asked them about how can the disability population have more, I think we said like exposure for sports and for he was just saying, government say how you got football and things like that, but I was going to say he said that maybe if we get a national disabilities league or something, and I think that's one great point also. And then I was just going to add to that, I just think if the school system and the higher education system start offering more sports categories that would individuals with a physical disability could participate in. So like maybe golf or putt-putt, ping pong, bowling, things like that, and offer it start out in middle school, really. Start out middle school and bump it all the way up, because if you look at football, basketball, even down to hockey, some of the major players, even golf, these kids start playing this stuff, about 8th grade all the way on up. So all they know is that particular sport, and that's why it's such a big money maker by the time they get to professional level because they done been inbred in the sport for about 10 years already. And I just think like, now I would love if I was at East Joint High School, we would have had a putt sports team. I would have been playing putt. I mean, I would have been the national putt champion or something, you know. But that was one thing he mentioned that I agree with him about. And we had a national league, but also some more sports opportunities. And there was something else that we talked about. I want to say maybe was it about how people working in sports? It might have been. And I just anyway that too. I think I don't know how many people are behind the scenes in the major sports industry like football, basketball, whatever. But sometimes I think the media doesn't put the spotlight on individuals. Sometimes they have disabilities, so it's like if you can actually get inside of I guess the in crowd, you find out there's more of your type of people in there. But because of when you start seeing advertisements on TVs and magazines, I hate to say it, a lot of times they don't want to put somebody in a wheelchair like me up there. They'd rather put somebody like Pat Riley up there with the jet black hair in the back. So I think if we can get the media to start putting spotlight on people with disabilities more on top of the magazine covers and things, so we can know that, okay, the Sacramento Kings general manager is in a wheelchair or whatever, you know, that would help out a lot so we can be aware of you know, this population and what we're doing in the sports industry.
That's true. You know, if somebody with a disability has an interest in sports, you know, there's always ways to find a niche, so to speak. And, you know, if it involves coaching, if it involves working on the sidelines as a photographer or a member of the media, or you know, in my case, through athletic training, all that sort of stuff. And that reminds me, I hadn't even thought about it. You mentioned bowling, but I bowled for a number of years over at Boulevard Lanes and on Saturdays when I was in middle school. And, you know, I adapted with the fact that I would just walk up to the line, get myself settled, and bowl my bowling ball down the alley, so to speak. And that was a lot of fun. And that was probably one of the first trophies I ever won for being on a team that, you know, that was participating. My wife reminded me that probably the highlight of my athletic career was that at one of the Spring Creek games for football at halftime, I proposed to her right after we announced the homecoming queen, and we actually got included in the write-up for the game. And unfortunately, Spring Creek was not doing too well, but and North Duplin beat us quite badly, but we did get included in the write-up. And I can remember walking through Bells, and people would say, "Oh, you're that couple that got engaged in the football game." So,
yeah, they may have lost, but you still got the W.
that's true. I got the best W.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my wife made the mistake of saying she wanted a memorable proposal. And so with some help from our principal, athletic director, and all that, we pulled it off.
Oh, man. That's a memorable proposal right there. It almost kind of reminded me of mine. I proposed to my wife. We were in Red Lobster. I had to get my cousin to help me out. We were down in Myrtle Beach, and I told him to take the ring, I had to hide it, and he took it, and we were in Red Lobster eating. And I'm in my mind, I'm trying to think of something smooth or how to pop the question. So that's what everybody that ate. So I'm like, well, we all done. So I guess I said our final goodbyes for the night because we're gonna leave the next day. And I kind of went into it that way. I had my cousin slide the ring under the coffee table to me, and then I gave my little speech or whatever, and proposed to her. And of course, she was in shock, and she ran out. She ran out of the Red Lobster, and they had to go get her. She was outside crying. And then she came back in and said, yeah, she'll marry me and everything like that. But it was a good night. It was.
Well, since I know your wife, I know that was a fun time.
Yeah.
I could laugh. That reminds me that while I was at the fence, giving my wife the ring, when the football officials came over and threw a flag on me for delay of game.
Oh man.
And the guys from Channel 5 were there too for Football Friday, and they said we were going to get included, but we didn't.
Yeah, that's funny. But Mr. Griffin, I truly appreciate you. I look up to you. Anytime you want to come and just be a part of one of our sessions, you're more than welcome to.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. It's always good to talk to you guys.
All right. Well, we will see you next time. And for the listeners, please check out our Facebook page, our official page, like, comment, and we'll see you next episode.
Have a good day. Bye.